Tonight, the EPA rules greenhouse gases are endangering our health, and that opens the door to new pollution regulations on everything from cars to factories to power plants. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the impact of climate change. We'll take you to one of the most beautiful places on Earth, where the fear is rising waters could wipe it off the map. Progress in the war against cancer. Experts say the death rate for colorectal cancer could be cut in half over the next decade. And yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, a lot of them actually, and Steve Hartman has the proof.
2, 3, 4.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening, everyone. We're beginning tonight with an important ruling from the Environmental Protection Agency. It's concluded that greenhouse gases are a danger to our health and that they must be regulated. The timing of the announcement was no coincidence. It came as diplomats from the United States, China, and nearly 200 other countries were gathering in Copenhagen today for the largest conference on climate change ever. A 2-week meeting aimed at forging an agreement to curb greenhouse gases. Wyatt Andrews is in Washington tonight. Wyatt, what impact do you think this EPA ruling will have on the conference in Copenhagen?
Well, Katie, this gives the president the claim to an historic first here in the United States. This is the first time any U.S. government has declared that greenhouse gases endanger health and that carbon dioxide, which is a part of the atmosphere and every breath we take, is subject to regulation. The EPA found that CO2 and 5 other greenhouse gases are a threat to public health and welfare, specifically because they contribute to man-made global warming.
Greenhouse gases from human activity are increasing at unprecedented rates and are affecting our environment and threatening our health.
The finding will not mean immediate new limits on CO2.
Nothing in today's action requires any regulatory action.
But limits are in the works, and they're well known. The auto industry has already agreed to cut tailpipe pollution by 950 million tons and raise car mileage standards from around 28 to 39 miles per gallon by 2016. The big industrial polluters, power plants, and steel mills have been alerted that one day CO2 cuts are coming anywhere emissions exceed 25,000 tons per year. The good news is that small businesses and farms are apparently off the hook.
Only the largest emitters from power plants and cars and trucks will be covered.
But the bad news, according to global warming skeptics like Senator James Inhofe,
it would affect everyone who's buying electricity,
is that cuts in CO2 will increase the price of electric power and lead to cuts in jobs.
It would have a devastating effect on employment. It would cost in taxes millions and billions, and in terms of jobs, probably millions of jobs.
The timing of this announcement also had a political edge. The president can now promise the world in Copenhagen that if Congress doesn't cut CO2 in energy legislation, he'll do it in regulation. He also hopes big business will be scared into supporting a climate change law because business has more clout in Congress than it has at EPA. Katie?
And Wyatt, there was a major international climate conference, of course, in Kyoto, Japan in 1997. What is different this time around?
You know, Katie, looking back, then President Bush, backed away from a climate change treaty because China and India would not promise CO2 cuts. This time, President Obama thinks he can get a more concrete promise from both of those countries.
All right, Wyatt Andrews in Washington. Wyatt, thank you. Now to a more immediate forecast for the environment. It's going to be a stormy week for much of this country. Southern California may get up to 4 inches of rain tonight, and that could trigger mudslides in areas burned by recent wildfires. That same storm could bring 2 feet of snow to northern Arizona and Colorado, and then it's heading east. Heavy snow is expected in Chicago by tomorrow night. Now, today in Chicago, a surprising announcement from federal prosecutors. Justice correspondent Bob Orr tells us a U.S. citizen already under arrest for plotting a terror attack in Europe is now charged with playing a key role in last year's massacre in Mumbai.
When 10 terrorist gunmen opened fire in Mumbai, India, they attacked hotels and a train station. Targets, U.S. prosecutors say, scouted and selected by a man from Chicago, Illinois. David Coleman Headley, shown in this grainy photocopy of his U.S. passport, is accused of conspiring with the Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba to carry out the Mumbai attacks that killed 170 people, including 6 Americans. Headley is now charged with 12 counts, including conspiracy to bomb public places and aiding and abetting the murder of U.S. citizens in India. Headley was arrested in October and originally charged with plotting to attack a Danish newspaper which published demeaning cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. But once in jail, Headley started talking. Now prosecutors say it's clear, while living in Chicago, he played a major role in the Mumbai attacks. Federal prosecutors say between September 2006 and July 2008, Headley made 5 extended trips to Mumbai, each time taking pictures and making videotapes of various targets, including those attacked in November 2008. After each trip, the government says, he allegedly returned to Pakistan, met with other co-conspirators, and provided them with photographs, videos, and oral descriptions of various locations. Headley is also accused of taking pictures on multiple boat trips around Mumbai harbor, mapping potential landing sites for a team of attackers who would arrive by sea. Indian police, who have been showing his passport picture around Mumbai for weeks, have lots of questions for Headley. While the U.S. is sharing information, for now the suspect remains in an Illinois jail without bond. But officials say the case is much larger than Headley. It's a stark wake-up call. There are people here in the U.S. plotting terrorist attacks. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Now to Iran. It's student day there, and today many of them took to the streets to continue protesting last June's disputed presidential election. Anti-government protesters clashed with security forces in several cities. Some of the worst violence was at the University of Tehran, where, as Elizabeth Palmer reports, thousands of students squared off with police.
Locked into the University of Tehran by police determined to keep them off the streets, a group of angry students breaks out to join other protesters in the city center, shouting the now familiar "Death to the dictator." Elsewhere, they burned pictures of Iran's supreme leader. Police fought back with tear gas, stun guns, and even hurled rocks, while plainclothes officers videotaped anyone involved for possible arrest later on. The protests erupted across Iran in cities with major universities, including Mashhad, Tabriz, and Shiraz. Foreign media were banned from covering the unrest, so this video was filmed by the demonstrators themselves, who also carried pictures of those tortured and killed by the government during this summer's riots, like Neda al-Sultan, now a symbol of Iranian resistance, who was shot by a besieged militiaman in June. But in spite of the harsh crackdown ever since, Iran's reform movement just won't die. Its rallying cry, "God is great," still rings out from the rooftops every night. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, London.
In health news, progress in the fight against cancer. A government study out today says the number of new cases this decade has been dropping on average by 1% a year, and cancer deaths have fallen by more than 1.5% a year. It may not sound like much, but it amounts to 49,000 lives saved in 2006 alone. Researchers credit early detection of and new treatments for the most common cancers, including colorectal. I spoke this afternoon with Dr. Mark Pachapin, a gastroenterologist, about the findings. Dr. Pachapin, this annual report indicates that more people under the age of 50 are being diagnosed with colon cancer. Why is that in your view?
Mainly because, in my opinion, it's our lifestyle. People are overweight, they don't exercise, eat red meat, smoking, and I think we're forgetting how important those factors are in preventing disease, especially cancer.
Right now, screening colonoscopies are advocated for people age 50 and over. Do you think that this study might make experts reevaluate at what age you should get a screening colonoscopy?
I think it's always tough. It's the risk-benefit, but I think we have to do something to look at the age group between 40 and 50 and see how we can decrease that risk. One thing in particular is family history. People have a risk of family cancer, such as colorectal cancer, but also uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, these glandular type cancers. If there are young people and families having that, they may need to get screened at a younger age, and they should talk to the doctor about that.
There was encouraging news about colonoscopies. Now, about 40% of people age 50 and over currently get screening colonoscopies. If that trend continues, the death rate will be cut by another 36% by 2020. What if even more people got screened? What would that mean?
That's really the best piece of this. I think this is very good news, this report, because if 60% of people were to get screened, by 2020, half of all mortality from colorectal cancer would be prevented. That's thousands of people. 150,000 people or so are diagnosed, and really 50,000+ people die from this disease. So you're talking about so many people that could be affected and be prevented from this deadly disease.
And finally, Mark, there's been a backlash recently about screening. We heard that government panels say women between the ages of 40 and 50, if they don't have a family history, don't have to get mammograms. PSA tests for prostate cancer have been called into question because they may lead to over-treatment when it's a slow-growing disease. What about colonoscopies? Are people questioning the efficacy of that particular screening technique at all?
Actually, colon cancer screening using colonoscopy is really a different type of prevention because we're finding something before it turns cancerous. Most cancer screening is looking for an early cancer, but with colonoscopy, you're looking for a polyp, which is a potentially precancerous growth. By removing the polyp, you prevent the cancer. So I think colonoscopy still remains the most effective way to prevent cancer. And so, no, I don't think we've seen a backlash, and I hope not. I think we're saving lives.
Dr. Mark Bachapin, thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
And coming up next here on the CBS Evening News, this island paradise takes climate change very seriously, and if scientists are correct, they should. As the World Climate Conference began in Copenhagen today, UN scientists warned that rising temperatures could cause seas to rise by nearly 2 feet this century. That could mean disaster for the Maldives, a chain of nearly 1,900 islands 500 miles southwest of India. In tonight's Eye on the Environment, Mark Phillips tells us the Maldives is planning for the worst.
They look like strings of pearls floating in a crystal clear ocean. But the expression trouble in paradise could have been invented for this place. The Maldives is more than 350,000 people, may be the first to feel the climate change pain. People whose lives have always depended on the sea, but who now live in fear the predicted sea level rise caused by global warming will simply wipe their country off the map. The president of the Maldives is famous for being blunt.
We've had it. There's no debate, there's no question. If it's the upper limits, we've really had it.
No place in the Maldives is higher than 7 feet 10 inches above sea level. 80% of the land lies 3 feet or less above the waves. And sea levels are predicted to rise by as much as 23 inches this century, according to the UN's climate change panel. Other, more recent studies using newer data have warned the world's oceans may rise even higher.
Even the least bad scenario for sea level rise would have the place looking like this. Worst predictions would have the place looking like this. Or worst of all, like this.
Which is why President Nasheed decided to make as big a splash as possible to publicize the threat. He held a cabinet meeting underwater.
Well, that's the bottom line, isn't it? Underwater. That's where we will end up. In many senses, that might be where we might be having our cabinet meetings in the future.
So you were practicing.
So this is a little bit of what you may be having to experience in the future.
The Maldives have already had a taste of disaster. The 2004 tsunami swept over these islands, killing close to 100 people. But what happens to the people here if the oceans rise up and stay? Not to mention to the billion or so others around the world also living in low-lying countries. Here they call it Plan B, a fund to transplant the entire population somewhere, a new ark. India, Sri Lanka, even Australia have been mentioned.
Maybe we might become boat people. A whole lot of us would die. Whoever who survives might be floating somewhere. We are really actually talking about our own grandchildren. And if you cannot provide for them, there's very little point of having a government now.
1, 2, 3, go.
In fact, the effects of climate change are already being felt. Marine biologists say an El Nino-style warming of the seas a decade ago caused a mass kill-off of the coral reefs that protect the islands.
Eventually, you will end up with less and less sand around the beaches of the islands.
And less islands.
More and more erosions,
Some resorts here are already trying to cut their own carbon output, in line with President Nasheed's call for the country to set an example by becoming carbon neutral by the year 2020. But for a place so dependent on tourists flying in from thousands of miles away and traveling to the outlying resorts by seaplane, carbon neutrality is but a dream at this stage.
Enjoy it while you can. Come to the Maldives. One tour operator actually mentioned that in its slogan.
Is that right?
Come to the Maldives while you still can, while they're still there.
The Maldives have become the canary in the global warming coal mine.
But next we'll be somewhere that may be among the first places to begin to feel the benefits. This is Greenland, where global warming may just be the beginning of possibilities. Tomorrow, economic growth in the land of melting glaciers, the ones causing these waters to rise and rise. Mark Phillips, CBS News, the Maldives.
Now an update on that taxpayer bailout of the financial industry. Chief White House correspondent Chip Reid tells us a new GAO report says the bailout will wind up costing us a lot less than we thought.
The latest on the federal bailout is not exactly good news. It's just not as bad as everyone thought.
Our expected losses have come down by $200 billion from just 3 months ago.
With so many banks now repaying their bailout funds, largely to avoid executive salary caps, the bailout program is now expected to cost taxpayers $141 billion. That's down from an estimated $341 billion in August. What to do with all that money? Many Republicans say it would be irresponsible to use it for anything other than paying down the staggering $1.5 trillion deficit. Today, the president said that's one possibility, but he also wants to use some of the newfound money to stimulate the economy, and he'll lay out some ideas in a speech tomorrow.
For example, making sure that small businesses are still getting lending.
The White House says the president is considering a number of tax breaks for small businesses so they can expand and hire more workers. Sources say he also wants to spend tens of billions of dollars, including aid to states to keep government workers employed, tax credits to weatherize homes, and more road construction projects. Critics say it's nothing more than a second stimulus at a time when the first one still hasn't proven its long-term value.
The jobs will be temporary, the debt will be permanent.
Some bad news. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke said today it's too soon to know if the recovery will last. Katie?
All right, Chip Reid at the White House tonight. Thank you, Chip. Now an update on those toy hamsters we told you about. Zuzus are the hot toy of the holiday season, but today federal safety officials said they'll take a closer look at them. A watchdog group said it found hazardous levels of a chemical on one of the toys, but the manufacturer insists they are safe. And coming up next, Santa Claus is coming to town.
People out in Charlotte at Christmas.
Good deal. Thank you so much. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you, too.
We end tonight with a holiday tradition. Every year at this time, Steve Hartman tells us about people who need a little Christmas right this very minute and suddenly find an angel sitting on their shoulders. Here now, Assignment America.
For 84-year-old Maggie Adams, Christmas is usually just another cold winter day.
I don't ever look for a whole lot of anything.
A widow on a fixed income, Maggie struggles just to keep kerosene in the boiler.
If it don't get too cold tomorrow, it would last till maybe tomorrow evening.
That was her big worry on this day.
I don't have any money to pay them for it.
The day Maggie Adams just happened to drop by a local thrift store.
Hey, how are you?
Where she just happened to meet some strangers in red hats who just happened to be just the angels Maggie needed.
We're Secret Santas. We wanted to give you a gift.
Thank you so much. God bless.
What just happened to Maggie is actually happening to thousands of people all across the country this holiday season. In Charlotte, where that was, Detroit, and if you're lucky, a town near you, all these red-capped Santas are going up to people and just handing them $100 bills. The Santas insist on anonymity, but I can tell you they're part of a growing number of wealthy business people, CEOs mostly, who together plan to hand out $300,000 this year because they all share the same crazy notion.
Go out and help others and make the world a better place.
That's part of it. The other part isn't altruistic at all.
When it comes down to it, I think we probably get as much out of it as anybody does because it feels really good.
The Santas do their best to find those most in need.
Merry Christmas.
They target thrift stores, restaurant kitchens, city buses.
This is a good thing they out here doing Secret Santa. I never thought I had a Secret Santa, but I do now.
Merry Christmas.
And everyone gets $100.
Oh, Lord.
1, 2, at least 4. $400. That's what Maggie got too.
So I just thank the Lord for it.
Enough to warm her heart, and then some.
Could you bring me 100 gallons of kerosene out this evening?
I'm no weatherman,
Thank you so much.
but it sure sounds like this Christmas is going to be anything but just another cold winter day.
It's about one of the most wonderful things that could happen.
Next year, the key players behind the Secret Santa operation say they will be expanding to Columbus, Ohio, San Antonio, Texas, San Diego, California, and Ontario, Canada. And they'd really like to come to New York if you're looking for another job.
Oh, well, that would be fun, and what a
It's
wonderful
really fun.
thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Steve Hartman. Steve, thank you so much. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. For the latest news online, you can go to cbsnews.com. Good night.